Today, Faversham Creek is a quiet backwater. A few pleasure craft, some old boats being lovingly restored, but nothing to disturb the peace of this beautiful Kentish town. But it wasn't always like this.
I mean, if you actually heard the noise, you heard broadside launch as well. It'd be fantastic.
It was quite an event. Schools took their children to the other side of the creek to watch what was going on.
They used to bring parties away, like the tidal wave. They get great.
Sometimes one boat, occasionally the normal one.
The sideways launch, whilst not only quite spectacular and used to attract thousands of people.
That held the chocks, and then the boat would slide silently down to the water, and it was incredibly quiet. And then you had the great whoosh of the water and that incredible thing that you thought the whole thing was going to sink.
Faversham has always responded to the nation's call in times of crisis. In 1588, the town provided the Hazard, a ship of 40 tons, to help defend the country against the threat of the Spanish Armada. This creekside warehouse was already over 100 years old when the Armada set sail. And Faversham Creek was chosen as the site for their shipyard by James Pollock and Sons at the time of another national emergency. The site of Pollock's shipyard is now a modern housing estate. Before Pollock's came here, it had been a brickfield, where Thames barges loaded up building materials for the expanding suburbs of Greater London. But from 1916 to its closure in 1970, Pollock's shipyard built and launched over 1,200 ships from this site. Its operation was central to Faversham's prosperity.
It was just a lovely sound, absolutely lovely sound.
Second hand from King's Lynn. A carpenter's workshop was established, and an extensive display area for Bollinger Engines, a Swedish firm for which Pollock's acted as agents. Phil Ellis was an early recruit in the drawing office.
He used to send me to the store for a struggling bar or a left-handed screwdriver. And because being green, he used to go to the store and ask for these things.
We had a rivet team working away on the tween deck. He never had a lot to say, but on the launch day, when Charlie Carter would be viewing the tide, he would walk behind Charlie saying, "High tide." So of course he became High Tide.
Charlie Carter, the foreman shipwright, always wore white overalls. His daughter Vida, who still lives next door to the house in which she was born, remembers washing them in preparation for launch days. The types of vessel constructed by Pollock changed with each generation. James, the firm's founder, had built up a valuable list of contacts throughout the world during his early career as a ship's engineer. After he set up as a marine architect, he sent many of his vessels out as deck cargo to clients throughout the southern hemisphere. Walter, who supervised the move to Faversham, had specialised in vessels for the home market: tugs, sailing barges and canal narrowboats. But the war effort required a radical departure.
When they first came to Faversham, they were actually building invasion barges. They built several large monitors which mounted 9-inch guns and which were used in the First World War. And towards the end of the war, they started building concrete vessels.
Concrete ships, made necessary by a shortage of steel, were difficult enough to design and build. They proved almost impossible to steer. Though Pollock's 2 concrete ships were launched successfully, their subsequent careers were not crowned with glory. the Molliette collided with Tower Bridge and was subsequently pensioned off to become a nightclub off Clacton. The Violette collided with Southend Pier, causing considerable damage. She herself was declared a total loss. But after the end of the war, these setbacks were quickly forgotten, and the shipyard fell into a regular routine.
Their bread and butter work was actually very much related to the London docks, and they made hundreds of lighters.
There was not much excitement about them. I don't think they had anybody down, no dignitaries if you like, on a lighter launch. But of course when you had coasters or tugs, invariably there'd be some local dignitary down there to make their presence felt.
The launch might be an occasion for Pollock's directors to celebrate with their clients. But for the workforce, the job was just beginning.
The boat went in
halfway along there, between here and that corner. One post and the other post is up there. And it was to measure the speed of the boat, like how many knots I expected it was doing. I think that's what it was. Ship to shore radio I had. So one day they could talk to me and tell me what it was, and I'd nip back to the yard and get it.
Marshal Pollock took a close interest in the sea trials of his ships. But by the late 30s, Marshal Pollock was a worried man. A long and profitable association with the Swedish engine manufacturers Bollinger had come to an end when Bollingers opened their own London office.
The other one was just a job, see? Then you had one for the propeller, which you got.
The Duck was ideal for taking Pollock's customers out to the Swale to watch their ships being put through their paces.
And when I got
Sometimes
to the Arty Ferry, I could engage the gear for the prop, propeller, and go straight in.
The surprise got the better of one of Pollock's customers. During the catastrophic floods of 1953, many of Pollock's employees enjoyed an enforced break from work. But for Marshal Pollock and Stan Flowers, there was serious work to be done, and the Duck was the ideal vehicle for it.
We got a message through at 6 o'clock in the morning that this coach was stranded on the way to Sheerness. So they waited there and we went out there and fetched them in. After that we were called out. Then we went down to Whitstable, feeding people up in their houses because they couldn't get downstairs.
In his amphibious jeep, with a 60-mile-an-hour wind thrusting great waves over them, Mr. Pollock and Mr. Flowers made journey after journey over a period of 20 hours, rescuing people from exposure and exhaustion and taking them to safety. Marshall also made sure that his pub, the Ferry House, was well stocked with provisions. At the shipyard, the commercial prosperity of the war years had continued for several years afterwards. One particularly unusual vessel was the BP Haulier, equipped with a Voith-Schneider propeller which hung vertically and incorporated several movable rudders, so that the ship was able to navigate in very shallow water. As usual, Pollock's directors and representatives of BP assembled to give her a ceremonial send-off. And Charlie Carter, by now aged 74, did the honours with his axe.
The BP Haulier was designed basically to run up and down Faversham Creek,
The tanker Ulco,
carrying
for the
spirit
Union Lighterage.
to the BP depot.
The Cosray 25, built for Costain, for construction work in the Niger Delta. A reclamation vessel for the Port of London Authority, romantically named PLA 18184, and the Seahorse, a combined salvage vessel and buoy lifting ship for Southampton Harbour Board. But it was becoming clear that Pollocks were being outcompeted both at home and abroad, and in danger of being left high and dry.
Shipbuilding was on the
say
decline.
your number, and they give you your number
Yeah, we used to.
with your tin, and the money stuffed in the tin.
Towards the end of my apprenticeship, There was the Isle of Grain refinery being built. All us kids were hearing of what money they were earning on these sites.
In the 60s, the situation was grave. Only an order for 3 tugs from Alexander's kept the company going.
I named the ship Sun 3. May God bless her and all sail in her.
What a waste!
There she goes. What a worry, really.
At the launch of Sun 3 in 1966, the guests were determinedly cheerful. But in an interview, Marshal Pollock didn't underestimate the company's problems.
Very difficult indeed, very difficult indeed. One is short of good skilled labour, prices are unrealistic, but I do think that there might be a little bit of sunshine round the corner.
A few months later, Marshal Pollock was dead of a heart attack.
Yes, there's me.
Yes.
And there's Alan.
Alan McLennan, Mary's husband and Marshal Pollock's nephew, became managing director. But he was faced with an uphill struggle, and in less than 3 years, he too was dead, at the age of only 38.
His brother had to navigate the yacht back to Ramsgate with him on it.